Have you ever felt that the relationship that was once your sanctuary has now become a psychological labyrinth? A place where you once found yourself is now the one place you get lost, piece by piece. You look in the mirror and a stranger looks back, a faint reflection of who you used to be. Your smiles feel rehearsed, your laughter sounds hollow. It is as if your identity, your beliefs, your very tastes have been slowly dissolved into another's powerful shadow. You were once a complete solar system, but now you feel like a single darkened moon orbiting a planet that is not your own, with no light or will of your own. And the exhaustion, that deep soul-level fatigue, this is not the tiredness of a hard day's work. This is a psychic erosion, a constant silent leak of your vital energy that no amount of sleep can cure. Every conversation, every interaction feels like a new debt levied against your spirit. You give and give and give until there is nothing left. And in the quiet of the night, you ask yourself, why do I feel so empty? Your mind has become a battlefield, a perpetual war between the warm memories of the past and the cold, confusing turmoil of the present. There are moments of peace, aren't there? Brief islands of calm that make you believe it's all in your head, that you are the one who is too sensitive, that perhaps you are the one going mad. This is the ultimate manipulation, not just of your actions, but of your very perception of reality. You begin to doubt your memory, your judgment, and finally, your own sanity. But what if I told you that this experience, this painful dislocation of the soul, is not merely misfortune or a poor choice? What if I told you that these connections, these soul bonds that have become soul chains, are not random? They are mirrors, dark, merciless mirrors, reflecting something from the deepest, most hidden chamber of our own psyche. They are not the sickness, but the symptom, a messenger from your unconscious screaming for your attention. The question we must therefore face tonight is not, why is this happening to me? Or why is my partner like this? The real question, the one that requires courage, is this. What is this relationship, in all its pain, trying to show me about the hidden, forgotten, and unlived parts of my own soul?
The answer to this question cannot be found on the surface of daily life. To find it, we must move beyond pop psychology and journey deep into the realm of the unconscious. And for such a journey, we need a guide, a cartographer of the soul. His name is Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist who dedicated his life to exploring the uncharted territories of the human psyche. Jung was no ordinary doctor. He was an explorer. He believed that our lives, and especially our romantic relationships, are not accidents. They are sacred arenas in which our greatest inner battles are played out in symbolic form. To understand these inner battles, Jung gave us a master key, the concept of the shadow. What is the shadow? Imagine your conscious personality is a house. There is the living room, well lit and neatly decorated, which you proudly show to guests. This is your persona, your social mask. But every house also has a basement, a dark, dusty, forgotten space where we prefer to keep the door locked. This basement is your shadow. The shadow is the storeroom for everything you do not accept about yourself. The rage you've swallowed, the envy you've denied, the fears you've mocked, the secret desires that terrify you. They are all imprisoned in this basement. But, and this is critical, the shadow does not only contain the negative, your repressed talents, your untamed power, And the wild, authentic self that society and your upbringing told you to lock away, they live there too. The shadow, therefore, is not inherently evil. It is merely unseen. It is the part of you that you have abandoned in the dark, and it is desperate to be acknowledged. Now, when we refuse to go down into this basement and face what is there, our psyche employs a brilliant but infinitely dangerous defense mechanism: projection. Projection is the act of taking one of the creatures from your own dark basement and seeing its face on another person. Simply put, your partner becomes the movie screen for your soul. You sit in the darkness of your own unawareness, oblivious to the projector running in your own mind, watching a film of your own demons and heroes played out on their face.
You accuse them of laziness because you despise your own repressed inertia. You accuse them of being needy because your own inner child is screaming for attention. You accuse them of being controlling because you are terrified of your own hidden desire for absolute control. And why is this drama so often staged in the theater of romantic love? Because no one is closer to us than our partner. Intimacy is the perfect breeding ground for projection. In the beginning of a relationship, we often project the best parts of our unconscious, that idealized image of the perfect man or woman that Jung called anima or animus. We don't fall in love with a real person, but with the reflection of our own divine, unrealized self in another. This is the magic of falling in love. But as intimacy deepens and the reality of their humanity sets in, the projectionist in our mind changes the real. Now, it is the shadow's turn to be screened. The initial magic gives way to a bitter conflict, a battle that is, in truth, your war against disowned parts of yourself, now projected onto your partner. This brings us to the heart of Jung's philosophy. He believed the ultimate goal of a human life is a process called individuation. Individuation is the courageous, lifelong journey of becoming your true, whole self. It demands that you descend into your own basement, meet your shadows, acknowledge them, and integrate them into your conscious personality. You do not destroy the shadow, you redeem it, turning its trapped energy into a source of profound power, creativity, and wisdom. And now we arrive at the definitive Jungian definition of a toxic relationship. It is not a loving partnership. It is an unconscious collusion to prevent individuation. It is a dynamic where both partners, or one of them, systematically stop each other from facing their shadows. They prefer to live in the familiar hell of mutual projection and blame, rather than step into the frightening, unknown territory of self-knowledge. The relationship does not complete you. It keeps you fragmented and dependent. It is a cage that prevents the growth of your soul. So that feeling of being lost, that psychic exhaustion, that confusion, these are not the symptoms of a sick love. They are the cries of your soul, trapped in this cage. A soul that wants to begin its process of individuation, but is being held back by the toxic dynamic of the relationship. This is the key, to understand that the primary battle is not outside of you, but within. And with this key in hand, we are now ready to unlock the doors and see the 7 specific ways this psychological prison manifests in your daily life.
These signs are often subtle. They live in the silence between words, in heavy glances, and in the repeating patterns you have come to accept as normal. But with the Jungian key we now hold, we can finally decode these patterns. Let us pull back the curtain. Sign number 1, the endless accusation, the war of projections. This is the most direct and telling sign. Here, your partner becomes your mirror, but a distorted one that reflects their own shadow back at you. They consistently accuse you of the very traits, faults, and motives that are, in reality, their own greatest repressed weaknesses. This is not a personal attack. It is their unconscious screaming out against the darkness within themselves. The Jungian logic is this: by projecting their shadow onto you, they achieve temporary relief from the pain of self-awareness. It is far easier to blame you for being selfish than to admit to their own deep-seated selfishness. You become the scapegoat for their psyche. For example, a partner who is deeply insecure and harbors a secret envy of your success will accuse you of being arrogant or condescending. A partner who is themselves unfaithful in thought or deed will become obsessed with the idea of your potential betrayal, demanding constant reassurance. They are fighting their own shadow, but you are the one taking the blows. Ask yourself, what are the primary, repeating accusations my partner levels against me? And with brutal honesty, are those accusations not a more accurate description of their own hidden character? Sign number 2, the gilded cage of stagnation, blocking individuation. Individuation, the journey toward wholeness, demands growth, change, and expansion. A healthy relationship supports this journey. In a toxic dynamic, however, your growth is a threat. Why? Because if you grow, become stronger, and move closer to your authentic self, you will no longer be willing to play your part in the unhealthy script. The toxic equilibrium will be shattered. Therefore, your partner unconsciously sabotages your growth. This sabotage is often insidious. They may be your biggest cheerleader in words. Darling, it's wonderful that you want to start your own business. But in action, they will create a massive emotional crisis the night before your big presentation. They support your new hobby that brings you joy, but they meet it with sarcasm, passive aggression, or guilt tripping that drains your enthusiasm. This is the gilded cage. You are ostensibly free, but invisible bars of stagnation keep you contained. Every step you take toward intellectual independence, career success, or spiritual peace is treated as a betrayal of the toxic we. Ask yourself, every time I take a step toward personal growth, am I met with a sudden crisis or emotional resistance from my partner? Are my successes truly celebrated or merely tolerated?
Sign number 3, the psychic vampire effect, psychic contagion. Jung spoke of a phenomenon called psychic contagion, where emotional states, especially powerful unconscious ones, can be transmitted from one person to another like a virus. This happens most intensely between people with eroded psychological boundaries. In a toxic relationship, your psychic boundaries are systematically worn down. You become an emotional sponge for your partner's anxiety, rage, and despair. They come home from work, silent and brooding, and suddenly you are flooded with a wave of dread that has no source in your own day. You feel responsible for managing their moods. Your peace becomes conditional on their peace, and because they are rarely at peace, you are never truly at rest. This is the deep fatigue we spoke of in the beginning. It is not just emotional, it is a vital energy drain. You are not only expending energy on your own life, but you are unconsciously fueling the unstable psyche of another. This is why, at the end of the day, you feel like there is nothing left of you. Ask yourself, do I often experience my partner's emotions more intensely than my own? After spending time with them, do I feel energized and vibrant, or do I feel psychically drained and heavy? Sign number 4. Worshipping the mask, rejecting the soul. Loving the persona. As we discussed, the persona is our social mask, the curated, edited version of ourselves we present to the world. In a healthy dynamic, you are allowed to take this mask off, to be your messy, vulnerable, imperfect, authentic self and still be accepted. In a toxic dynamic, your partner is in love with your persona, not your soul. They're in love with your image, the successful professional, the strong one, the happy-go-lucky partner, the one who has it all together. As long as you play this role, you are showered with affection. But the moment you dare to remove the mask, you're punished. The moment you speak of your fears, you're called weak. The moment you cry, you're labeled dramatic. The moment you need help, you are seen as a burden. The unconscious message is, I want the perfect version of you. Take your real, messy self back to the basement. This teaches you that vulnerability is dangerous, and that to be loved, you must always be performing. Ask yourself, do I often experience that I must always be strong, flawless, and cheerful to earn their love and approval? In this relationship, which version of me feels safer? The real me or the performing me?
Sign number 5, the demonic repetition, reenacting complexes. Have you ever had the exact same argument with your partner 100 times? The surface-level topic might change. It could be about money, chores, or friends, but the underlying emotional dynamic is always identical. Jung would attribute this to the activation of complexes. Complexes are emotionally charged clusters of memories, thoughts, and feelings rooted in our unconscious, usually formed in childhood. An abandonment complex, a victim complex, an inferiority complex. In a toxic relationship, you and your partner unconsciously collude to stage dramas that allow you to reenact these core complexes over and over again. For example, you have a deep-seated complex of not being seen from your childhood. Your partner has a complex around losing control. The result? A recurring fight where you accuse them of not listening, and they react by becoming more controlling and dismissive. You are both reenacting your oldest wounds, casting each other in the roles of the figures who first inflicted them. The fight is never really about the dishes. It is about the demonic repetition of that old, familiar pain. Ask yourself, what is our primary repeating fight? If I strip away the surface topic, what is the deep, familiar feeling underneath it? Does that feeling truly belong to my present, or does it belong to my past? Sign number 6, the war with the ghost. Animus projection. This is a special and particularly devastating form of projection. Jung believed that within the psyche of every man, there is an unconscious inner feminine image called the anima, and within every woman, an unconscious inner masculine image called the animus. These images are formed by our experiences with the opposite sex and by collective archetypes. In a toxic dynamic, your partner measures you against this idealized internal ghost, and you always fall short. They are not in love with you, the real, three-dimensional human being. They are angry that you fail to perfectly embody the fantasy figure in their own mind. You will hear phrases like, a real man would have, and your partner has a. You were not fighting with a real rival. You were at war with a ghost. You can never win this war because the standard is invisible, unreal, and entirely in the control of their psyche. It leaves you in a state of perpetual inadequacy, always auditioning for a role you can never truly fill. Ask yourself, do I often feel like I am trying to live up to an invisible and undefined standard? Is my partner's love conditional on me playing a specific role rather than simply being who I am?
Sign number 7, the dissolution of the self, the ultimate loss of soul. This is the final and most dangerous sign. It is the culmination of all the others, the final stage in the catastrophic failure of individuation. After months or years in the previous dynamics, you arrive at a point where there is no longer an independent I. Your psychic boundaries have been completely erased. You can no longer distinguish your own thoughts, feelings, values, and desires from those of your partner. When asked your opinion, you answer with, "we think." You no longer know what music you like, what food you enjoy, or what your dreams are unless they are a reflection of your partner's. Your I has been dissolved into a toxic, suffocating we. This is not a loving union. It is a parasitic merger. You have lost your internal compass. Your soul, which is meant to express itself on its journey of individuation, has fallen silent. You have become an echo of another person. This is the ultimate psychological prison, because you no longer even realize you're a prisoner. Consider this chilling question. If this relationship ended tomorrow, would I know who I am? Is there an independent I left to stand on its own, or am I just a hollow outline in the shape of my partner?
And so, we have walked through the 7 signs, from the endless war of projections to the final dissolution of the self. As you can see, this is not merely a list of grievances. It is the map of a psychological prison. Each sign is a bar in the cage that prevents the growth of your soul, halting your sacred journey toward wholeness. But the ultimate purpose of this knowledge is not to demonize your partner or to drown in a sense of victimhood. That is a trap. Jungian wisdom teaches us that the most powerful point of transformation lies in the moment we turn our gaze from the outside inward. This relationship, in all its pain, has been a merciless but honest messenger. It has held up a mirror, forcing you to see the very shadows you have been running from your entire life. Therefore, as we reach the end of this exploration, the true challenge is laid before you. I ask you to consider this question with your entire being. Not the question, "Is my partner toxic?" That is a question that keeps you powerless. But rather, this powerful inquiry. What part of my own unlived life, what hidden power, what denied truth is this relationship forcing me to finally confront by casting me in this painful role? This is a profoundly personal journey, but it is not one that must be walked in isolation. In the comments below, I do not ask you to share your stories of pain. Instead, I ask you to make a pact with your own soul. Write one single step you will take this week to reclaim a piece of yourself, not out of spite or anger, but out of reverence for your own individuation. Perhaps it is 5 minutes of silence. Perhaps it is saying no to one request. Perhaps it is opening a book you've meant to read for years. State your step and share its power with others on this path. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell of awareness. And remember, the darkest night is often the prelude to the brightest dawn. Your journey has only just begun.